Hello, this is Dr. Victoria Skirbo speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. I want to talk to you today about the astrology and Kabbalah of the month of September 2018. Okay, so let's look at the numbers connected to the month of September. So if we look here, we have September, which is the 9th month, and if we add the universal year of 11, of course we get a 20. And the 20, the 20/2, first of all, it's a 2 vibration, right? And we're in an 11 year. Whenever we have 0 next to a number, it brings the God force to bear on the number. And so the 20 actually can work just like the 11 can. So the card associated with this vibration is the Judgment card that we have here. And this is from the Rider-Waite deck. Can you see it? Okay. So here we have the angel Gabriel tooting his horn, waking up these three. Well, there's more people in the background, but the people in the foreground, we have a woman, a man, and a child. And this symbolizes, the woman symbolizes the subconscious, the man, the conscious, and then the baby, the superconscious mind. And each one of these are coming out of what looks to be coffins. And we have, there's darkness, they're coming out of the dark, okay? In the background we have water, this is the firmament, okay? This is sort of the atmosphere of a three-dimensional, our three-dimensional existence. And this card is about awakening, waking up. This is the card of the awakened soul. And I'm just going to pull, I'm just looking for it in my Illuminati tarot deck so you can get a better look. I don't actually have my Rider-Waite with me right now, so we're going to use the Illuminati deck. The images are quite similar. Okay, so here we have the angel blowing the horn, waking us up. All right. The 2 is about receptivity. The 2 is it's a feminine number. It is about, it's an emotional vibration, and it's a sensitive vibration as well. It is a number. 2 is the number of duality, but with the 0 next to it, it sort of allows us to rise up above the duality of our existence, to see what this is really about. What this card is really about is waking up that our life on earth is simply a part of who we are and not the whole story of who we are. This is where we awaken to a higher purpose, a higher vibration, even our own divinity, our own divine self through this. This is the card of resurrection. It's called Judgment, but it's also called the card of resurrection in some decks. Now, I did a tarot reading, excuse me for a second. I did a tarot reading for September, if you want to check that out. That's a separate video. And I used something called the Wildwood tarot deck. I used it. It has a lot of pagan symbolism in the deck, and I used it because of the fact that the sun is mostly in Virgo in September, and this is a time of reaping, and a time when we are reaping the harvest that Mother Earth gives us. So in honor of her and in honor of our connection to the earth, which of course is Virgo, right? I decided to use that deck. So I want to show you the card from that deck that's connected to this vibration. And this is the card in that deck. It's actually quite different, but it's the same in a way, the same idea. It's called the Great Bear. The Great Bear, of course, is Ursa Major, and we can see that we have this giant white bear. It's a spirit bear, and it's atop a dolmen of some kind, or a tomb, and there's darkness in that tomb. And so this is an expression of coming out of the tomb of three-dimensional reality into a higher vibration, into our connection to the great cosmos, as it were. And so we are waking up, and that's the energy. Now, on the Tree of Life, which is right here, you see that? Yes? On the Tree of Life, this path, the 20 over 2 path is right here. It's associated with the planet Pluto, the soul, planet of the soul, and it is associated with the Hebrew letter Shin, which is symbolic for fire. Okay? This particular path connects the Sephiroth Hod, which is connected to Mercury, our mind, with Malkuth, which is connected to Earth, the Earth element, the four directions, the four elements. And so this is the mind connected to manifested existence. And so we can use our minds at this time to manifest. Okay, that's empowered at this time. It also connects, if we take the chakra system and we overlay it over the Tree of Life, it connects the solar plexus with the root. The solar plexus is our personal will. The root is manifested reality. And so this is an opportunity for us to manifest our will on planet Earth. Now that needs to be done from an awakened state. Of course, the more awake you are, the more actual energy and power you have at your disposal to manifest. So we see people who are perhaps not quite as awake manifesting all kinds of things on the planet, and you're like, yikes, look at that. Why can't I do it? Well, you can, actually. You just have to want to do it. It has to do with a deep desire to want to do that. Pluto is the planet of desire, but it's the planet of unconscious desire. So the more and more conscious we become of our motivations, of our emotions, which is Pluto, the more in charge we are of what we manifest. And so it's an important time as an awakened soul to focus on the things that you want to see in the world. You don't want to focus on the things that are wrong with the world necessarily. You want to focus on solutions. And because we're dealing with a 2 vibration, there's this sense that we cannot do it alone. We do need other people. 2 is a number of relationship. Okay? 1 is the individual, 2 is the other, and it is with me and you, I and thou. We need to work the energy of this time to manifest the best things that we can. So what I'll look at is I want to look at, see if there's anything going on specifically with Pluto this month, because Pluto through the Kabbalah is highlighted. And in fact, Pluto has 2 major things going on. Let me just I have it all written over here, and I have to look here. The 2 major things going on with Pluto is that on the 11th of September, September 11th. Wow, how about that? Pluto is making a sextile to the Sun. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, no. Scratch that. The 12th. Jupiter is making a sextile to Pluto. This is actually part of a cycle that began back in 2007. In 2007, Pluto and Jupiter conjoined in, I think it was the 29th degree of Sagittarius. It actually occurred on December 11th of 2007. And this is a cycle of power, okay, increasing power, right? We have Pluto is the planet of power, and Jupiter is the expansion of that power. It happens in Sagittarius, and what's significant about that in the last degrees of Sagittarius is that by that time, 2007, Pluto had been in Sagittarius, I believe, for 14 years, and it was coming to the end of its journey through Sagittarius. It actually moved into Capricorn in 2008. And Jupiter, being at the end of Sagittarius, had just spent a year in Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is what we believe to be true. Sagittarius is also the energy of the higher mind. So it has to do with our philosophy, it has to do with our ethics or our ethos, but it also has to do with the higher mind and our ability to connect to that. Sagittarius is often connected to higher education and metaphysical studies. It's also connected to justice, social justice, right? So these are all themes that are coming, and this particular relationship, or what we call synodic cycle between these two planets, is coming to a close. So at this sextile, Jupiter has moved 300 degrees ahead of Pluto. There's only 60 more degrees to the cycle, and Pluto and Jupiter come back together in Capricorn, actually in 2020, which is, of course, is a big year, certainly. There's a lot of conjunctions occurring in 2020. There's Pluto and Jupiter, there's Pluto and Saturn, and there's Saturn and Jupiter. And so these are all very significant cultural, societal shifts and changes that are coming. So this sextile, this 300-degree sextile, has to do with an opportunity for us to think in a more progressive way, to think in a more Aquarian way. What is good for the common good? And so that's the energy that's coming in September. It's sort of coming to a head, and we have the opportunity to actually make some big changes because of that. Or sextiles are there to be utilized. There's opportunistic, but if you don't do it, it doesn't happen. Okay? It's not like a square where squares drive you to do something, otherwise it kind of drives you crazy until you do something. Sextiles just sort of say, hey, here's a golden opportunity. What are you going to do with it? So that's something that you have to ask yourself. What are you going to do with it? And because Jupiter is in Scorpio and Pluto is in Capricorn, we are really asking about sharing power, right? Like, who holds all the power? Who holds all the cards? Why aren't we sharing? And Scorpio is also our shared resources and our debt. So how is the people in charge, Capricorn, utilizing us, indebting us? I mean, what's going on here? And so these are all themes that are coming sort of to a head in September, and after this crazy summer that we have with the eclipses and Mars retrograde and Mercury retrograde and 3 Uranus-Mars squares, third quarter squares, revolutionary squares, this is the time when the rubber meets the road. This is the time when we can actually make a difference and make a change. The other thing that's happening, the other important thing that's happening with Pluto is at the end of the month, on the 30th, the last day of the month, Pluto stations direct. And Pluto stations direct. Pluto is around 19 degrees right now, and as it moves forward, it's going to move into the last decan, or the last 30 degrees, the last 10 degrees of the sign of Capricorn. It has been 2/3 through Capricorn. It moved in 2008, and now, 10 years later, it's moving into that last decan. The last decan of Capricorn is ruled by Mercury, connected to Virgo, which the sun is in, incidentally, for most of this month. Let's fix what's wrong. This is about fixing what's wrong. The first decan was Saturn, was ruled by Saturn, and the first decan was from 2008 till about 2012, 2011, I think. maybe a little bit further. I'm not exactly sure. The second decade was from, say, 2012 to now. And now we have the third. And that second decade was Venus ruled. So what do we value? What's important to us? What's essential in our lives? And now we come to the Virgo side of that. What do we need to fix to make our lives better, to make our world work better for us? And not just us, but everybody that we share the world with. Other countries, other creatures, the oceans, the skies, the earth. I mean, you don't have to look very far to see that things are in a tizzy when it comes to the environment. And this is a watershed time. We're going to do it or we're not going to do it, but we need to focus on what we want to see, and that's so very important. What do you want? What's your will? What kind of world do you want to see? This world has to be inclusive, and it has to come from a place of awakening. Okay. All right, so I'm going to talk about a couple of other things that are going on this month besides what's going on with Pluto. And I'll do that when I come back. Okay, so now I want to just talk about some astrological highlights of September. So the first significant thing occurs on the 3rd of September, and that's when Saturn and Jupiter make something called a semi-square. This is a 45-degree angle. It is part of a synodic cycle, or a cycle between Saturn and Jupiter that began in 2000. In 2000, these two planets came together. They do it every 20 years. It is considered a monetary cycle. And so they came together at 23 degrees of Taurus. Now, 18 years later, they are coming to the last 30 degrees of their last 45 degrees of their interaction with each other. So they have 45 more degrees before they come to the conjunction. That conjunction will occur in 2020. It's one of the major conjunctions occurring in 2020, and it's going to occur at 1 degree of Aquarius. So we go from Taurus, which is about our resources, our resourcefulness, what's essential in our lives, what's of value to us, our money, etc. And then we're moving into Aquarius, which is about fair distribution. And that's a 20-year cycle, so that's going to be an interesting thing to see how that works. But this is the last 45 degrees. And the last 45 degrees is called the balsamic phase. And this is when Jupiter has to surrender to Saturn. So any ideas or philosophies that we have brought forth in this 18-year period that began in 2000 is going to start to move away. Sorry, there's a fly. It wasn't you. Is going to start to disintegrate and dissipate. And so at being prepared, being ready for a new cycle. Now, because both Saturn and Jupiter are social planets, we're going to see a breakdown to a certain extent of the old order. Okay, and this could also include a breakdown in money, because money is ruled by Taurus, and that was the initial conjunction. Remember, this happened a year before 9/11. And 9/11 really changed everything, and it happened before we had the meltdown in 2008 when Pluto moved into Capricorn. So there have been a lot of changes and a lot of challenges with that Taurus energy to see what is essential. Now we have Uranus in Taurus, and that's going to be there for 7 years, and so that's going to further bring the issue of what is important, what is essential, our resources, our resourcefulness, our money, and our earth, our relationship to the earth will be highlighted. And Uranus does it in a big, explosive way. So we'll see what's going on. I'm not saying what that means, because you have to interact with the energies, right? You have to see I wouldn't prognosticate. I'm not prognosticating terrible things to happen. I'm saying that things are going to change, and that's the area where the change is going to be felt. the last time Uranus was in Taurus was 1934 to 1941 or 42, I think. So that was 76 years ago. And that was, that was the 30s to the mid 30s to the early 40s, right? That 7-year period. And there was a lot going on at that time. So there will be a lot going on this time. But we are more aware and more awakened. Okay? So we repeat the cycle, but we repeat it at a higher level. Hopefully we evolve, right? Okay. So that's important. On the 6th of September, Saturn goes direct. Saturn's been retrograde since, I believe it was April. And now Saturn is going to move forward. So Saturn moved into Capricorn at the end of last year, December 19th of 2017. And it moved up to, I believe it was 9 degrees of Capricorn. And then it went retrograde. I think it was in April. And now it's back down to about 2.5 degrees of Capricorn when it turns direct. And so we are going over that, pretty much that first 10 degrees of Capricorn. 1, 2, 3, we go over it. 3 is a charm. And so it's about, when it was retrograde, it was about determining what structures needed to stay and what structures needed to go. And now, as Saturn moves forward, we start to rebuild. And if you watch my video on the the tarot reading, the outcome card was about rebuilding. So it's all kind of the themes are all out there. Okay, it doesn't matter if you're using tarot or if you're using Kabbalah or if you're using astrology. The energy is the energy. It's just different ways of reading the energy. Okay. And then on the same day as Saturn goes direct, Venus goes into its pre-shadow. Venus will be going retrograde next month. It'll be the last, it might not be the last retrograde of the year. I shouldn't say that. Okay, so on September 9th, we have a new moon in Virgo. It's occurring at 17 degrees of Virgo. The Sabian symbol for 17 degrees, I'm going to turn my head, is a volcanic eruption. The explosive energy of long repressed contents of the subconscious. Keyword explosion. So, explosion. This particular new moon is actually trine Pluto. And the trine is a trine of understanding. It's a 240 degree trine to Pluto. And so we are coming to an understanding of Virgo, what needs to be fixed. Easy enough, right? I mean, it's not easy, but it's simple in that respect. So that's the energy. And on the same day, Venus moves into Scorpio, our shared resources. So that should be interesting. Okay, so that's something that's going on. As I said, on the 12th of September, Jupiter makes that sextile to Pluto. We have a progressive shift. And then I want to go to, there's all kinds of things happening. I'm just trying to go over the main stuff. The kind of the real important stuff. So on the 18th of September, Mars and Uranus make a last quarter square to each other. Now that might sound familiar. It's familiar because this will be the third time it happened. The first time it happened was May 15th. That was the same day that Mars moved, or maybe it was the 16th. It was the same day that Uranus moved into Taurus for the first time in like 76 years. And the first aspect that Uranus made was this last quarter square to Mars in Aquarius. Mars in Aquarius is about revolution. Mars in Aquarius is action, excuse me, for the common good. Uranus in Taurus is the waking of the feminine. And then the last quarter square deals with a crisis in consciousness. This is when we question authority. Do they really know what they're doing? And part of the process of individuation, I'm sorry, I'm just a little, it must be allergies. Hopefully that'll help. a process of individuation when we become sort of the captains of our own ship. Okay. It also occurred on August 1st. At that time, Mars was retrograde. Now, this is the third time and the last time. And so, this is the time when we really can make a shift, make a change. Squares always force change. This is a change in the way we think. That, along with the sextile between Pluto and Jupiter, this really is a time when we can make some progressive shifts and progressive changes. So if you have any more progressive thinking or more progressive ideas about anything, whether it's politics or how you want to live your life, this is the time to sort of institute that. Remember, the solar plexus is connected to the earth, to the root. If we want to change it, we have to take an action. We have to will it so. Okay. All right, and then I want to talk about the full moon that occurs. Oops. I want to talk about the sun moves into sun moves into Libra at the equinox. That's when light and dark is equal. And then let's talk about this full moon in Aries. The full moon in Aries is the moon is in Aries at let's see, 2 degrees, is it? Yeah, 2 degrees exactly. Wow, that's unusual. 2 degrees exactly, opposite the sun, 2 degrees exactly in Libra. The sun in Libra is conjunct Mercury in Libra, so our ability to communicate in a balanced way, a peaceful way. Libra is about dialogue, but it's also about listening, so it's about listening to each other. The moon is conjunct Chiron, which is at 0 degrees 2 minutes of Aries, moving backwards. It's just about ready to move back into Pisces for a little while, and then it'll move back into Aries next year, and won't be back into Pisces for another 50 years. So, but with the moon conjunct Chiron in Aries, this is the wounds of the masculine. And with the sun and the moon oppositions, Mercury opposite Chiron, it's about talking about it. And Saturn is square. Saturn and Vesta are both in Capricorn and square the axis. And they're at 2 degrees, so they're about 3 degrees of Capricorn. And so we have a T-square. We have a cardinal T-square. This is about an evolutionary shift, a change, and we need to move forward in a very mature way. Okay, so whatever we do, we have to do it with our big boy and big girl pants on. It's not about blaming each other. It's not the blame game. It's about working together, getting the work done that we need to get done. Saturn is now moving forward. It's time to lay down the groundwork and lay down the structures that are going to support us through this transitional time when we can go from survival to thrival. Okay. And then, of course, on the 26th, 27th, depending on where you are, Chiron moves back into Pisces, going to be there for a couple of months. I think it's like the last 2 or 3 degrees of Pisces. We'll have access to love, loving compassion, and forgiveness. And so we may have to do a little bit more forgiving before we can move forward on that. And then the last day of the month, on the 30th, we have Pluto going direct. And that's when we're chugging down the path. So it's a very exciting time. It's been a very challenging summer for most people. We've had a lot of losses. I've had my own personal losses that have been very, very challenging. And yet, with every loss is a new beginning. And sometimes the things that we lose become more of a help. More of a support down the road. We are all in this together. Every connection we make has value, whether it's a positive experience or a negative experience. We can do this together. And next month we move into a month. Next month in October, there is a birth. There's a manifestation of a birth. So let's get the groundwork done. Wake up, people. It's time to take responsibility for ourselves. It's time to take responsibility for each other. It's time to take responsibility for our planet. We can do this, but we can only do it together. I wish you peace. I wish you blessings. I wish you abundance. And I wish you'd come back to see my other videos. If you enjoy these videos, if you find this information valuable, please press the like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, share it with your friends. Hopefully this will help a few people. As always, it's been a pleasure, and I will see you again next month. Ciao.